Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Getting In, a College Coach Conversation. I'm Sally Ganga from College Coach. I hope you're all doing well, enjoying well. Over around here, it's actually really rainy. So it's warmer, but it's raining. But nonetheless, if you are juniors in particular, go visit colleges. That is your assignment right now. All right, I think today is going to be a really interesting show. For our second segment, I'll be talking with Joy Biscarnet, college coach veteran, about how to use Naviance, a college counseling program common in high schools, to its fullest potential as a student researching colleges. And for our last segment, my guest will be Vanessa Garrido, and I know I mispronounced that, Glogauer, currently on the education team here at College Coach and former Reed College admission officer and public school teacher, about her personal story as a child of immigrants who was also the first generation in her family to attend college. That's part of our stories from our team segments, which I hope you all enjoy as much as I do. But first, Stacey, if you're watching this on the YouTube videos, Stacey MacPhetres, we call her Stacey Mac, so hopefully I didn't pronounce her name incorrectly. One of our college finance experts. She'll be telling us everything you need to know about athletic scholarships. Welcome, Stacey.
Hi, Sally. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks for being on here. And actually, I love the finance segments, partially because this is the area where I am like really almost totally clueless. And thanks to all these segments, I've actually been able to like say little things that I know are true. And I think that you have a personal connection to this because your daughter is a recruited athlete, correct?
That's correct. My daughter is currently a senior, has just made her commitment decision. Well, she made her commitment decision a little while ago, but she will be playing basketball. And we have just spent the last couple of years going through the college athletic recruiting process. So, yep, we've been there.
Yeah. It's pretty complicated. I mean, I always warn, I know enough to tell people that it's kind of like a second whole application process. And then where scholarships are part of it, that's like a third layer.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll be honest, I've mostly worked with Division III where scholarships are not a thing. So, but so that actually brings up the question of, do all college athletics offer athletic scholarships?
It's a great question. And it's probably the most important first question when considering the sort of scholarship endeavor when it comes to athletics. So the short answer is only Division I and Division II colleges and NAIA colleges offer scholarships. So what that means is Division III colleges do not offer athletic scholarships. And I'm going to underscore that because I know we're going to come back and visit that, or I'd imagine we will. But generally speaking, we know that it's Division I and Division II that award athletic scholarships, and then how they are offered, how they're offered by sport, and then amounts can vary across the spectrum. So just, as student athletes are getting ready to look at colleges, they need to understand that if they're looking for athletic scholarships, they're only going to be awarded at those Division I and Division II colleges.
And not even all Division I, right? Like I believe that the Ivies don't offer any scholarships, correct?
That's correct. Yep, absolutely. So within Division I, there is the Ivy League exception. There are some Patriot League exceptions as well. I think, sort of setting the groundwork for folks might be helpful. And that is to say that there are 8 million high school athletes right now today. Only 522,000 of those go on to even play in college. And less than 5% of that number gets Division I scholarships. So when we're talking about the universe of high school athletics going on to play, 6.5%. And then only 5% of those are ultimately getting scholarships. So when you've got your seventh grader and you think they're the next, whoever, Elena Deladon or, whoever, you really want to kind of give serious thought to the reality that most students probably will not either go on to play, and even fewer will go on to get those scholarships. So really keep your options open when it comes to searching for an athletic program.
And realize that with athletics, it's very similar to academic scholarships where you're going to get the biggest scholarship where you're more of a standout, right? Like,
absolutely.
Because one of the things that I've run into is to kind of tell students, they're like, well, I want to play at name whatever school is sort of amazing for their sport. And I'm like, okay, but if you're below average, your best bet is to be a walk-on, and then you're not going to get any money and it's not going to give you any admissions boost. And they're like, but that's where I want to play. And I'm like, well,
yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
well, if you need money too, this is all going to be challenging to work out.
Exactly. And then there's sort of this other complexity within the financing structure. And that is that there are what they call head count sports, which are generally those that get the larger scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are what are called equivalency sports, which are generally those that get much smaller numbers of scholarships and much, much smaller amounts. And realistically, think about what you think they might be. The head count scholarships are the scholarships that are bringing in revenue to the institution. So those are going to be your football, your basketball, things of that nature, the higher profile sports. Others are going to be equivalency sports where schools may be lucky to get partial scholarships for parts of their teams. Mm-hmm. So really, I think, as we say with everything, it comes back to putting together a really comprehensive list and making sure your list is made up of all of the right components. On the athletic side of things, it could be not only scholarship available opportunities or athletic scholarship available opportunities, but also maybe thinking about where you might not get scholarships for athletics, but there might be other opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even if you're a strong enough student going to a D3 school that offers scholarships, you'll get an academic scholarship.
Yep.
And you'll be able to play. So it sort of depends on, I think, what your goal is. But I really like getting this message out to parents because I feel like I hear parents sometimes really think that athletic scholarships are more plentiful than academic. And I've had to really tell people that they're wrong and then have them really push back. And I'm like, look, you're hearing about the scholarships because those famous athletes are on the news. You're not hearing about the academic ones. They're not making the news as much.
Exactly. And I think that's a really, really important focus. And I don't mind sharing, since we talked at the beginning, when we started the process, my daughter was looking at both, all three, D1, D2, D3 schools, excuse me. Sorry. And pretty quickly in her process, she narrowed down the option of wanting to play at a Division III school because she's much more academically focused. Mm-hmm. And for those who are really sort of immersed in athletics, Division I is absolutely a full-time job. Division II, pretty close. For her, she felt like she wanted the balance of the opportunity for great academics as well as the opportunity for athletics. So realistically, our focus then became still looking at financing, still looking at scholarships, but now it wasn't athletic anymore. Now we were focusing on those schools where she could compete academically, compete athletically, and garner those merit scholarships. So a really important point for so many of the people that we've already both talked about it twice. And that is, at those Division III schools, know that there is a significant amount of resources at a lot of schools that are offering merit scholarships. Sometimes they're called leadership scholarships. Sometimes they're based strictly on academics. But usually schools are looking at sort of different components in order to consider athletics in that sort of applicant pool for merit, while not offering athletic scholarships, as I use quote fingers for those who are listening. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that people really need to be aware of, is that at the Division III level, there are a lot of really plentiful merit opportunities that are going to be greater than the athletic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I worked with students when I was at Whittier, which did offer plentiful merit scholarships. My other two schools, one of which was Division III and one of which didn't really have athletics at all. Yeah. Obviously didn't offer athletic scholarships, but we offered plentiful merit aid. And it was kind of cool because I would talk to students who would say, I got, like one student in particular, had gotten a scholarship to I think what was an impressive D1 program, but realized when he said he wanted to major in biology because he was thinking about being pre-med, they were like, you should do journalism or communications. And not that there aren't really good communications programs, but he was being actively dissuaded, and that made him kind of look away from the higher level and look towards the D3, because I promised him, and I knew it was the case, that our coach at Whittier College was very pro the players getting an education. They were scholars first.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So anything else, like any other kind of comments or pieces of advice that you would give to people? I mean, I think the main thing is, yes, have a balanced list, realize it's going to be a stressful process. Do not count on an athletic scholarship. Right. So look for those other sources. Yep. I mean, I also tell people, I know someone who went to Notre Dame initially on an athletic scholarship and then got injured. And I think that, so he couldn't play. I mean, he was a really good tennis player. He said that Notre Dame actually honored the scholarship commitment. This was quite a few years ago, but I don't know that all schools would do that. I think Notre Dame is a particularly ethical institution as far as those things go.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an important question. And actually that probably one of my last 2 points, which is most athletic scholarships are not assumed 4 years. They're renewable.
Mm-hmm.
So while people are always like, oh, full athletic scholarship, which is not quite as much of a thing as people think, ask the questions in the process. How renewable is this? What happens if the student athlete is no longer able to play, no longer desires to play? There are a lot of schools that will make up the merit in a different way. But again, it's worth asking the question. And again, renewability is a really important question when going through the process. And I think my only other point would be, if you are very much interested and the student athlete is absolutely a standout, this process is going to start a lot earlier than your junior year or your senior year. So if you are someone who might be a junior who thinks their student athlete is very good and they haven't been involved with discussions with coaches, they're probably already too late. Not always, but I want to be sure that I'm cautioning, especially at the D1 and D2 level. We know that those offers have gone out and they probably have already met their class of 2023. So those are other things to think about. So think about the balance, think about what the student really wants in their education and their athletic endeavors, and then think about your timing.
Yeah. I worked with a soccer player and she was all sewn up to go to a major D1 school in January of her junior year. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I think it worked out well for her, but I was a little alarmed because it's pretty early.
It is very early. It is very early. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It was a good school though. She was happy. So it all worked out.
Awesome.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it. Unless you've got anything else to add, I think we covered the main things.
I think we've got the high level, and I think any more details would get confusing.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, exactly. That's important too. All right. Well, thank you so much, Stacey.
My pleasure.
Okay. All right. So we're going to be taking a short break, but when we return, I'll be talking with Joy Biscornet about using Naviance.